Hey everybody, welcome to the Warrior Podcast. This is Frank Lardino. Thank you for joining me today, fellow warriors. Today, we're going to cover anger. And why is this important? Well, first of all, if we don't manage our anger, we often have terrible outcomes. And we're going to talk about some of the terrible outcomes that I've witnessed through anger. Not only my anger, but anger of people around me. First of all, we need anger. Anger is one of our natural emotions. Every living creature on planet Earth has a fight, flight, or freeze instinct. We need this for survival. Anger is the emotion that triggers the fight in that fight, flight, or freeze. A good example of this was I just watched a nature video. I like to watch animals in the wild and the struggle for survival. There were two zebras, a mother and an adolescent, and they were galloping across the plain, and a female lion jumped on the back of the little zebra and immediately flipped it around and had the throat in its mouth, which is how the lions, how they kill their prey. Well, the mother zebra turned around, she started snarling and got angry, and she ran back and she started trying to bite the lion. And the lion was trying to block using the little zebra as like a shield. And that mommy zebra, she got in there and she was biting that lion, and that lion released the little zebra. And then both zebras started to run away. That's the flight part. So the fight and then the flight. But then the lion jumped on the mother zebra on her back, and that mother zebra kicked both of her hind legs, and she nailed that lion. And that lion, she's like, I've had enough. And that lion took off, and the zebras, they survived. So that's the type of anger that we need. That's the correct use of anger. Now, you can also use anger in this way. Like, part of the reason why I'm podcasting and why I'm writing books and doing all this other stuff is because we live in a dark world. We are surrounded by, dark forces that are doing evil things all the time. The fact that our government's so corrupt makes me angry, okay? But that anger fuels me to fight. That pushes my fight instinct, and I fight back through my podcasts and through my books and my writings and having conversations with people, because I want us to hold our government accountable. I want us to help to do everything in our power to clean up our government, because it's getting really bad. So that's the good part of anger. And now we're going to talk about the bad part of anger. So I used to have a really bad temper from as far back as I can remember, being a little child all the way through into my 20s. It got a little bit detuned as I got older. But man, like, I learned to bowl early in life. And when I would throw a gutter or a bad ball or miss a spare, I would like physically kick the ball return with all my force. And I broke a few ball returns. I jammed a couple toes. I used to take my bowling ball and slam it on the ground, like just a bunch of stupid stuff. And it was damaging myself and damaging property. There was nothing beneficial about getting angry like that. And then later on, golf became my game, and I was okay at golf. I was, captain of the golf team in high school, and I loved the game. But even in golf, I was trying to maintain my composure, especially being in competition and stuff like that. But sometimes the anger got the best of me. I'd throw a club, I'd hammer the club on the ground, and sometimes it would break. I'd do a discus throw the club down the fairway. I even took my whole set of clubs and, threw them in a pond. Like, I just have these outbreaks. And the thing about golf is such an internal game. Most of it's played in your mind, and it's slow moving. It's not like a boxing match where you have to think fast you can fester those feelings of anger. And I used to do that. I used to, just think about, that hole was terrible. How am I going to shoot a good score now? And, on and on and on. And I believe that's why I never reached my potential in golf. It's because I couldn't manage my anger. So thank God I grew out of it. And I'm going to share with you some of the ways I grew out of it. I remember, speaking of the golf course, I was playing around with two of my good buddies, and my one buddy, he was kind of caught in the trees, and he was getting mad. And me and the other guy were on the green already waiting for him, and he chunked his shot. He didn't hit a good shot, and he tomahawked his club, and the club hit a ball washer, which is like a metal post, and the club wrapped around the ball washer post, and it snapped in half. He just hit it perfectly. And the grip part of the club rebounded back and lodged into my buddy's leg. Like, it was like a perfect shot, like a knife going in. And golf club is, the shaft is just like hollow metal. So this hollow jagged metal went into him, and it messed him up. Like he was in bad shape. We had a wave to the group in front of us because they had a cart, and they zipped him, into the parking lot, and, he went to the hospital. And they told him that he's an inch or two or whatever, very close to the main artery in his leg. Like, he would have bled out on the golf course and died. So that's another example of the usual terrible outcome of anger. And another story, I worked with a little company for about 3 years. I'm not used to working for companies. I always work for myself, always had my own business, but I needed the job at the time, so I took it. Maybe 45 employees at this company. And we had one gentleman there who I got along with just fine. Very nice guy. But he was the only person who could do a particular task in this company. And so when the time came where he had to, put these numbers together, he was the only guy who could do it. And every time those times came, he got really angry. And he wore his anger on his face. He just had a terrible look. Everybody was uncomfortable around him. They were uncomfortable to talk to him. He'd bark at everybody. And I mean, it was amazing to me, because I'm like, man, this guy's at least 10 years older than me. How does he survive? How does he live this long by getting angry like that? And as it turns out, he had a lot of jobs in his life, and I often wondered, is that the reason? Lack of anger management. So he was an interesting character study for me. And I always made sure that whenever I was hiring somebody, I always tried to get the makeup of how much control over anger they had. Another story, this happened in the trading pit. Everything got really heated in the trading pit because you're dealing with large sums of money. Emotions run high. And I remember these two brokers, they were having an argument, and the markets were slow. So it was kind of quiet, and everybody in all the pits could hear these guys screaming at each other. And one guy was like kind of an Irish brawler type guy, and he had a reputation for bar fighting. And the other guy was kind of a low-key guy, nice guy. I get along with both of them. Well, they're kind of bickering back and forth about a trade or whatever. And, the more calm guy, whatever he said, it was a good, like, whoa. And everybody in the pit went, whoa, like, he got you, bro. Well, the brawler, he walked over in the pit and he had a calm look on his face. And he went to go talk to the guy he was bickering with. And the other guy, the calm guy, kind of leaned down because he was on a step above. He leaned down, and the brawler headbutted him full power right here. And this guy was a big dude. So he had a big head, and that did some neurological damage to that guy. I don't know if he ever sued him. But then on top of it, the disciplinary board at the exchange, they fined that broker $200,000. because you were not allowed to hit anybody on the trading floor. They had pretty stiff fines. I think that was the biggest one that I'd ever seen. So there's another terrible outcome for anger. Here's another good example. And this is like a life lesson. My brother-in-law is a pastor, and he's often with people near the end of their life. They're on hospice. They have a few days left, a few weeks left. He will go visit them, and he'll pray with them and do the things that a good pastor does. And he was telling me he was the oldest guy in our church, and he was on hospice, and he was on a rapid decline. And he was the type of man that was always angry, just angry at everything and everybody, always complaining. And his words were like barbed wire. And, my brother-in-law, he's a good communicator. So he always was nice to the man, whatever. And then it was maybe a day before the man died. My brother-in-law was with him. And the old man finally said, man, I spent all this time being so angry in my life, and I finally figured out I had a really good life. I had a devoted wife. I had great kids. They all were successful. I got grandkids. I got great grandkids. I've had a really good life. And I thought to myself, hey, better late than never, but how much time of your life did you spend nurturing anger, fueling anger? How much joy did you deprive yourself of in life? And how much angst and grief did you exact on other people? And that's a great story of how, not being able to manage anger is terrible. And now I'm going to share the story, the greatest story of anger that I have personally that affected me. This guy, he was my best friend in the whole world, 30-year friendship. He was like my big brother, super intelligent. He was managed many of my financial things. And I respected him more than I respected anybody that ever lived. This guy was the executor of my estate. That meant if my wife and I died in a plane crash, this man would be in charge of the care of my children. I can give nobody a higher responsibility or more respect than that. He wasn't in my inner circle. He was the center of my inner circle. 30 years, played golf, hundreds of rounds, table tennis, hundreds of dinners, Vegas trips. Everybody I knew went to him. He helped them with their businesses. He was the man. And I called him the man. I go, you're the man? And it was a true, rare type of friendship. And one day we were sitting in my family room, and we were talking about a person that we both knew, that I happen to know a little better than him. And he made some statements about the person, and I said, well, that's not true. And he got angry, and he got up, and he went, you better be careful who you pick as your friends. He looked me square in the eyes like that. And then he left. He peeled out. He actually peeled out of my driveway. And my wife was sitting there in the same room, and she's like, what was that? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe he had a bad day or whatever. Called him, texted him, emailed him, called him, texted him, emailed him, nothing. Next day, nothing. Next day, nothing. Next day, nothing. Now I'm going, wow, was he that mad at me? What, is he going to be gone forever? I wrote him a letter. Wife wrote him a letter. I called him up daily. Then it went to weekly. Then it went to monthly. He was gone. He literally severed the friendship like that over a little disagreement. It wasn't even a heated disagreement. He took it the wrong way. He got angry. So now about a year had gone by. He was a write-off to me, and something happened where our identity got stolen, and he would have been the first guy that I would call. So I called him. He didn't answer. This is a year now. A year has passed. He's gone. And I just left him a voicemail. Well, he called me. One thing led to another. Now he's back at my house. We eat a nice dinner. Everybody hugged and kissed. We played some table tennis, which was our thing. And then we opened up a bottle of wine, and he held the glass up to me, kind of teary-eyed, which was not his style. And he said, "Thank you, brother, for being the bigger man." I said, "Dude, are you kidding me? We're family. I'm just doing my job." So after that, everything was always a little bit strained because I found myself I was worrying about saying the wrong things to him. But on the same hand, I also learned that you shouldn't have to do that in a friendship. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Anyway, about a year went by. We were friends again. And then the same thing happened again. We had a disagreement about another person that he wanted to go into business with. And I knew that this person was a very unsavory character. And I just started rattling off all these things that all these people that have said about this guy. This guy's being sued and this and that. I go, just search the internet. You'll see all the stuff there. He got angry again. He goes, "He's a great guy." He got up and he just walked out, gone. So at that juncture, that was a little different than the first time. The first time, my personal code said, "Hey, man, this is my best friend. I'm not going to let him go because he got stupidly angry." No. So I reeled him back in. But the second time, my code said, you already did operate from higher ground and you were the bigger man and you reeled him in before. Now, I'm not begging anyone to be part of my life. I'm just not doing that. So I let him go. And that was years ago. I haven't seen him, heard from him. I don't know what's going on with him at all. But I didn't get angry at him. And here's why. What I said to myself was, don't be angry at him because he wasn't the person you thought he was. Take personal accountability for thinking he was the person that he wasn't. He didn't do anything wrong. I did. I misjudged him. I misjudged his character. So that's how I retired it in my own brain. So that keeps me accountable. And then the next thing I did was I looked at this 30-year friendship and all the amazing stuff that happened. He did likely keep me out of prison. That's a whole nother story that I'll share with you at another time. That'll require a whole podcast onto itself. It was my protector. And I had such an amazing relationship with this guy, a relationship that's rare in any person's life, this man, and I was grateful for it. I was absolutely grateful for it. And one of my friends asked me if he ever passed away, would you go to his wake? I go, hell yeah, I'd go to his wake, and I'd do a eulogy for him too if they'd let me. And he says, well, what would you say? He says, tell him what a remarkable man he was, what he meant to me in my life. What a fantastic time I had with him. He was my protector and my mentor. He was like my big brother. What am I going to say about him? I'm going to tell him the truth. So anyway, that's the worst case of anger I've ever seen. That was related to me. It ended a friendship. And I got another friend that's starting to get high on the anger meter. And I am again now. I'm trying to monitor what I say. And again, my counter logic to that is, why should I have to monitor what I say? Because to me, guys, true friendship means, by definition, unconditional acceptance. Unconditional acceptance. Now, men operate a little bit different in their friendships than women, but in my circle of friends, like my closest friends, I'll just give you an example. I had a bunch of guys over from all different walks of life. They all happened to be around and in town at the same time. So we had, it was going to be an information sharing session. We were going to talk about life in the world. We ate a huge meal beforehand, which that's my style. I love to do that. And then we drank wine and bourbon, and we sat at my kitchen table till 2:30 in the morning. And we talked about everything: politics, the world, religion, climate change, everything. We hit everything. And these are all my best friends, but they weren't necessarily dear friends with each other. These were my guys, okay? So some of them were more on the liberal side of the line. Some of them were staunch right side conservatives. Some were in the middle. We didn't agree on everything. And my best friend was sitting right across the table from me, and we were talking about luck. And I don't believe in luck. I believe we make our own luck. All the decisions we make lead up to a positive outcome, which others would say is luck. People don't get to where they are in life because they're lucky. And I could be wrong, but that's my opinion. And my buddy, he got so animated with me and so passionate that other people would construe it as anger. And he looked at me and he stuck his finger at me and he's like, "You're fucking wrong." And he pounded his fist on the table. "You're wrong. I don't agree with you." And I smiled at him. I gave a big smile because this is how men talk. We don't stomp around and walk away and I'm never going to come back again because, I didn't agree with you. No, this is how we talk. We get animated, we get heated, and then at the end, we hug and kiss. Everybody goes home, we reset, and we go, "Man, what a great evening," right? That's a true friendship. And that's the bulk of my friends. They're like that. But once in a while, this anger gets a hold of somebody, and it could happen to any of us in the group, and that whole dynamic could crumble, could crater. So I've showed you where anger has really bad outcomes, and I've also noticed that there can be a correlation between hate and anger. Hate and anger can collaborate with each other, and one can fuel the other, or one can create the other. It could go both directions. So, for instance, and this is stupid as hell, but one of the guys sitting at that table, one of his best friends from the past was a Sox fan, and my friend's a Cubs fan. And they would bust each other's stones all the time about Cubs, Sox, Cubs, whatever. That's what people do. That's what sports is. That's part of the fun of sports. I'm not a sports guy, but I observe it, and that's part of the fun of it, right? You root for your teams, you bash the other guy. Well, this guy, he got so angry, this Sox fan, about whatever was said. It was just a ball busting thing. He gone. He unfriended my buddy on Facebook, blocked him, didn't return calls, no texts, out. So think about the stupidity of getting angry over a sports team like that, where you will end a friendship. So kind of the same thing happened to him for as stupid of a thing. And so that's one thing where the hatred for the Cubs made him angry about the discussion. And I've also had this, I've seen this with Donald Trump. People who hate Donald Trump, they just feel so much anger. They hate him, and it makes them angry when they hear anybody talk about him in a neutral way or a positive way. They hate him. And I'm a neutral observer here. I will tell you, I don't hate Trump, and I don't love Trump. Okay? I'm neutral on him. I don't know where the guy stands, but I don't hate him. And by the way, I think our country's in the most worst shape it's ever been in my lifetime. I think this president we have right now is the worst president in the history of the United States. I think he and his cabinet are burning this place to the ground, but I don't hate him. Okay? And the reason why I don't hate him is because hate is a bad emotion. Hate is blinding. Hate fuels anger. And when we get angry, guys, I've already shown you what good can come out of getting angry like that. Needless to say, I have to watch what I say around my one friend because he has that hatred for Trump, and he's the one who likely brings him up. So I got to just say, nope, we're not talking about this. But again, it makes me wonder, why do I have to monitor my speech? That means my friendship with this person, it's conditional now, isn't it? It's not unconditional acceptance. It's conditional acceptance. So it's not optimum. So why all this talk? Why do I care so much about managing anger? Well, because I'm all about managing all my emotions. I call it internal mastery. Why do I want to be able to manage all my emotions? And that doesn't mean I don't have them. It means manage them so they don't manage me. Well, I'll tell you why. It's because I want to leave a legacy. And a legacy to me means, how will I be remembered when I'm gone? When I take my last breath on this planet, how will I be remembered? What will people think of me? Will I have made a positive impact? Will I have made a negative impact? Right? Will I have done good or bad in this world? It's important to me. I would hope my friends would say at my memorial service, he was my best friend. He was a first responding friend. He helped me when I was at rock bottom. He helped pick me up off of rock bottom. He saved my life, and on and on and on. I can make a million of those things. I want my sons to say, my he's a warrior. He's a badass. He never complained. He's tough. He's strong. He's smart. He was my advisor. I hope to be like him, right? I have high aspirations. I want my wife to say certain things, and my other family members and acquaintances and people I work with. Like, I want them to say, like, this guy was one of the finest people that I've ever known. Okay. This is my thing, but this is what's important to me. Singularly right now, my number one mission is leaving a legacy, a good legacy. And I know that for me to even get close to this ridiculous bar that I've set for myself, I have to be the best and strongest version of me possible. I can't achieve all of these things if, like, I'm depressed and I can't get out of bed in the morning, or if I'm angry about the outcome of something that happened in real estate or a job, for instance, or I have hate in my heart, or even worse yet, I have fear in my brain. Okay, fear is the worst, and we'll talk about fear in another podcast. Fear is the worst. I cannot achieve any of this stuff. So my journey every day starts within me. First, gratitude. Why gratitude? Because gratitude's like breakfast. That's nutrition. That's my fuel every day to make this thing the strongest that I can. And then I have to be aware of what I'm thinking and feeling. That's called metacognition in neuroscience. What am I thinking and what am I feeling? And I have to pay attention to it. And I ask myself a simple question. Is the way I'm thinking about something making me happy or unhappy? It's that easy, right? And when I'm angry, I'm unhappy. I don't want to be unhappy. When I'm offended, I'm not happy. I'm unhappy, right? So become unoffendable. How's that possible? Well, it's possible because I give the words power that come at me. You don't, I do. So why would I give your words power to offend me and make me unhappy? So this is utilizing the mind's power in such a way where I can hit my legacy, right? Or get close to my legacy or continue to approach my legacy. I have to be the best and strongest version of myself. And that to me is the warrior mindset. And when you get to the highest levels of your mind's potential, you become a warrior commander. You become a person that even great warriors, they go to because you have the calmest center. You have the most internal mastery over your emotions. And there's a lot of things mentioned in many warrior cultures about the warrior commander and how they have the calmest center. Even though they can wreak havoc on the battlefield and kill and maim, they have a calm center. They can plot solutions better. They see the battlefield clearly. They're not overrun by fear or anger or any bad emotion. They're managing their emotions so they can see clearly and process with their machine at an optimum level. So that's the reason why I want everybody out there watching this podcast to think about anger. One, to make your life better, and two, so you become a warrior or become a stronger warrior or even a warrior commander, because in this day and age, my friends, there is so much hate in the world. We hate each other right now. You could cut it with a knife, and the system is doing it to us on purpose. They're making us hate each other. They're putting all of these crappy narratives on TV, and we're starting to hate each other. That's why they create all these groups, and then right? So we have to become the best and strongest versions of ourselves so we can eliminate this hate. So as a community, we become stronger and better so we can push up against all the entities and people pushing these bad narratives and creating this hate, right? That's my secondary mission. My first is me be the best that I can be and live the best life that I can. And then so I can influence others to be the best and strongest that they can be. So we as a unit we can push back against the dark forces that are encroaching on us. And I can tell you, me personally, I've been banned from YouTube and Facebook many times for saying stuff that speaking my opinions. That's what's happening, guys. Our freedom of speech is all other freedoms are predicated on that. So the mission's important. So think about when you get angry, think about how unproductive it is. Think about how it weakens you. And by the way, when you're really angry, you know what you are? You're really stupid. When you really hate somebody or something, you know what you are? You're really stupid. That's the bottom line. So don't be stupid. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed the podcast on anger. I would love to hear some of your stories of how anger ruined relationships or ended up terribly. Keep revolving those thoughts in your mind, how anger is never good unless it's used for survival. That's the only time we need that anger. But if you're going to fester on something, it's, you're going to be angry about something or hold hate. It's like holding a burning coal in your hand your whole life. And that's not good. So I love you all. There's a warrior inside of everybody. Some of you are already on the mission, and you know you are. And remember, each one teach one. I love all you guys. I'll see you at the next podcast.